I just saw a random video on my For You page and I had to stitch it. This guy struggles with reality mightily, and it's a shame that people are so detached from reality. And I mean no disrespect to this person, but he should not be giving advice to anybody. His name is Austin Reed, and he claims to be here to be the light in the dark. He claims to be a philosopher, a therapist, and a magician. And I find that ironic because philosophers and magicians are all about deception. I think his main point in this video is to discredit the scientific knowledge we have about the brain.
So how exactly does an object give rise to a subjective experience?
So his opening question is, how can a physical brain be the source of consciousness? And I will admit, it is amazing and mysterious, but we know that the brain is the source of consciousness.
So I think the issue with the physicalist, materialist worldview is it assumes that consciousness is a byproduct of brain states. It assumes that the subjective experience arises from objective means.
This guy is obviously not a scientist, and he is demonstrating how philosophy is an inadequate way to determine reality. The scientific method is how we can determine reality.
But the issue is that assumption goes unquestioned, and it's not, I think there's other ways of looking at the mind-body problem, of looking at how consciousness exists at all.
Yeah, there are other ways. It's called the scientific method. He values philosophy and disregards science, and that will not lead him to the truth.
Because if you think about it, a rock, does a rock have consciousness?
No, because rocks don't have brains.
Well, we can kind of think about that. What about a spoon? Does a spoon have a subjective experience of its own?
No, spoons don't have brains.
So, if we assume that a spoon and a rock do not have subjective experiences on their own.
I was waiting for him to draw a conclusion about the spoon and the rock, but he never does. He just changes the topic.
Or even if we even took one neuron, does one neuron have a subjective experience of its own?
I would say no, in the same way that chemicals do not have subjective experiences because they don't have a brain.
What about just one half of a brain hemisphere? Does that have a subjective experience on its own?
Now the answer is yes, because we actually have living humans who have half of a brain who have a subjective experience.
What about the brain itself, the brain entirely on its own? Does the brain have a subjective experience of its own?
If you take a brain out of a body, it will die and not have a subjective experience. But if you provide a healthy brain with nutrients and blood and oxygen, it will be the source of your subjective experience.
My answer to those questions is no.
That's because you're a philosopher and not a scientist. You are detached from reality.
Because the brain is not something that produces subjective experience.
Wrong. The brain most definitely is the source of your subjective experience. And we could prove it to you if you would allow us to remove your brain. You would no longer have a subjective experience.
The brain is an object that is occurring within your subjective experience.
This is his philosophy that has no basis in reality.
If you think about it, you've never ever actually confirmed that your brain is in charge of hallucinating all this reality.
That's what a philosopher would say that has absolutely no understanding of the scientific method.
The only thing that you can confirm is that there is a correlation between your brain state and your conscious state. But that assumption goes unquestioned. We think that it causes it. But the thing is, if we take and isolate your brain one bit by bit, we cannot find a you inside of there. We cannot find who you are. We cannot find that feeling of what it's like to be a subjective person inside of your brain. We cannot locate that.
Brain surgeons and scientists actually do isolate certain parts of the brain and have determined which parts of the brain are responsible for which parts of your conscious awareness. It is the combination of all the parts of your awareness that makes you who you are.
And the brain is an idea in your mind.
Oh my goodness, dude. The brain is not just an idea. The brain is a physical object in your skull that is responsible for all conscious and unconscious thought.
The brain is an idea in your mind.
Maybe your brain is just an idea in your mind.
And it's no idea, no object that exists could we say is the cause of all that we experience, right? The rock in front of you is not the cause of your experience. The same as the tree in front of you is not the cause of your experience.
Just because a rock and a tree does not cause your experience, that does not mean that your brain does not cause experience. The brain specifically functions for the purpose of causing experience.
Likewise, if I were to cut open my own skull and shine a mirror and see my brain, that thing I'm seeing in my head, that thing that I'm seeing in that mirror, I should say, is that the cause of my experience?
Yes. Yes, it is, and science proves it.
Is that pink substance the cause of my experience? Because if it is the sole cause of my experience, then if I take it out,
then you will no longer have an experience or consciousness, correct?
Then it wouldn't...
Uh-oh, he's glitching again.
It couldn't be on its own. There's more to it than just the brain itself.
This is what philosophy will do to you. Science has the answers.
The brain is an object within what I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing an object called a brain, but what I'm experiencing I cannot be.
That's complete nonsense.
If you think about it, just logically deducing that. So it's kind of like this. If you're having trouble understanding this, think of it like this. When you're dreaming at night, and you dream of cutting open your own skull and looking at your brain in the mirror, is that brain that you see in the dream, that dream brain, is that dream brain you're looking at in the dream mirror the cause of all the dream experience that you're experiencing in the dream?
How ridiculous. No, your dream brain is not the source of your dream. Your real brain is.
No, obviously. No object inside of your dream can be the cause of the dream, because the dream is what is holding all appearances within it. So everything that you experience in reality is an appearance within consciousness.
He just asserted that our reality is equivalent to a dream, and that our brains are no more real than a brain that we dream about. He is perfectly demonstrating how philosophy is not a reliable tool to determine reality.
And we cannot definitively say that any appearance in consciousness is the cause of consciousness. That's the issue with the materialistic worldview, is they assume that you need to have a body and you need to have a brain in order to have consciousness.
Well, that's a pretty good assumption, Austin, because 100% of everything that has ever demonstrated consciousness has had a body and a brain, and there has never been anything that demonstrated consciousness without a body and brain.
But what if consciousness doesn't need that?
And what if pigs could fly?
What if consciousness is more fundamental than a body? What if the body and the brain is not inside of consciousness? What if consciousness is not inside of the body, but what if the body and brain is inside of consciousness itself, in the same way that your body in the dream is inside of the dream itself?
Then we would need some evidence of that rather than just a philosophical postulation.
So, it's something to think about.
No, it's not.
I'd encourage you to contemplate this and think about it for yourself.
And I encourage you to think about it just long enough to dismiss it without merit.
I just want to present this idea out there for you, is that the only thing we can be certain of, for certain, is the first person subjective experience.
And if you knew anything about the scientific method, you would know that we can test and observe and prove that we are in an objective reality, not a dream state. You can be delusional, but the scientific method is our best tool to determine objective reality.
All else we cannot definitively prove. Just think about that. The only thing the most real thing that you have about reality is your first person experience. And outside of that, we have models and maps of reality, such as brains, neurons, galaxies, universes. But what if all that is just inside of your consciousness? Because if you think about it, That's all that you ever know. That's all that you can ever confirm is your consciousness. What you see, taste, smell, hear, think. All that.